play some lo-fi hip hop. Ooh, there's 2 people in here now. Hello, brother. I'm your subscriber. What's up? What's up? There we go. People flooding in now. What's up, people? What's going on? Hello. What's up, y'all? 5:46 a.m. from the Netherlands. That's crazy. Quite early. Might be a upcoming YouTube video I make. It's like a workout at 5 a.m. for 30 days and see what happens. What's up, guys? Man, people from everywhere here. Pakistan. Vietnam. Many India too. Bro, how to train my lower chest. So the best way to actually bias the lower chest, in my opinion, is just sticking to, for one thing, just a regular flat bench press. The thing is, when you're doing some sort of flat press, you're already going to be like directly training the lower chest as well as the mid chest. So I think that honestly is all you really need. If you want something more specific, you could do like a high-low cable fly or chest dips, right? Basically any press where you're going in this more downward motion, that's going to train the lower chest. My lower body is bigger than my upper body. How to build a fit body? Yeah, I mean, that's partially just genetics. If you follow a well-rounded workout routine long enough, that should pretty much iron itself out. You're from South Florida. Hey, what's up? Clear Mountain. Good to see you in here. Philippines. I have a question about SARMs. Not the person to ask. Bro, are you going to stick your tongue up for the picture? Can you save this live stream as a vid so people can watch later on? Yeah, for sure. At school tomorrow. Yeah, no. I get rest. I get some rest. Sleep is very important for the gains. Tyler, do you have like 30 different memberships? What do you mean? I'm trying to think. Oh, there was a Facebook page recently that my friend sent me. It's called like Tyler Path Fitness on Facebook. It has like 33,000 followers on it. And that it wasn't even me. Like I looked at this, I'm like, bro, who made this? And they're like uploading like random stuff on there, like NSFW kind of stuff. I'm like, bro, I've been trying to get that taken down for the past like 2 weeks. But anywho, yeah. So if you see Tyler Path Fitness on Facebook, it is not me. Just letting you guys know that is definitely not me. Hey man, I discovered you about 2 weeks ago. And I really love your content. Let's go. What's your body fat percentage? I would guess anywhere from like 10 to 11%. I was thinking for a future video, I was gonna test my body fat percentage in like 3 different ways to kind of like measure them. I think that would make for a pretty good video. I think logistically, I'm trying to like figure out a way to do all the tests on the same day, and that just might be hard to coordinate. least in the near future, but we will see. Hi Tyler, thank you for your video. It's really helping that same body as you, but I'm having trouble bulking. What do you recommend? Pretty sure you don't really need to bulk, I remember. So you're having trouble bulking. I'm assuming you're having trouble building muscle and probably putting on weight. I wouldn't necessarily focus too much on specifically your weight, but in terms of building muscle, I mean, it all really depends on how long you've been training. Like, I think give yourself a longer time frame, let's say like 6 months to a year, to really, in that 6 months to a year, just focus on being consistent. Don't really question like your progress, right? Focus on learning throughout that time, optimizing your workout routine. Pretty much do that, and then afterwards, then you can look back after that time has passed and be like, okay, is there anything like I'm doing wrong here? Because I think the biggest thing is consistency, and a lot of people they try to like skip the step where they're trying to get consistent straight to like trying to optimize for everything, which I just don't think is the best way to do it. Is spamming lateral raises a good way to build bigger shoulders, or are there more effective exercises? Yeah, so I think workout volume, which is essentially spamming lateral raises, is only one of many things you can do to like try to work a muscle more, right? I think what could be more important than just spamming lateral raises is making sure you're taking those sets to failure, trying to apply progressive overload over time. So if you're spamming lateral raises and like you're not even counting the amount of reps you're doing, like 1 week you might be doing more reps than the next week, right? But if you really track that, let's say you work in a rep range around like, let's say under 10 reps, right? That way, if you work in a lower rep range, you can really remember how many reps you had. And once you reach 10 reps with a certain weight, you can increase the weight. And then maybe with that increasing that heavier weight, you get like 8 reps, for example. That's okay. That's a good thing, right? You get 8 reps for that 1 week, and then you try again next week, and maybe you're at like 9 reps. Week after that, maybe you're at 10 reps. That's progressive overload. I think that's more important than just like spamming lateral raise willy-nilly. So. What's your favorite chest exercise? I'd say incline dumbbell bench press. How to get a jawline? That's a good question, man. I think it all comes down to being at lower body fat percentage, right? I know a big topic right now is like mewing, whether mewing works or not. I think if you're like if you're still growing, so if you're a teenager, I think there's some validity to, try out mewing. I don't think it'll actually hurt. But as an adult, where like, when your bone structure is pretty much fully developed, it probably would result in like a marginal difference. I think the biggest thing you can do for your jawline is just to simply get to a lower body fat percentage. Which country do you belong to? Well, I'm born and raised in the U.S., but my parents are Thai and Chinese. You're always at different locations for your content. Yeah, I try to switch it up, make it more entertaining. How long have you been working out? Almost 9 years at this point. It'll be 9 years this June. But that's consistently. Okay, Dog with Hat says, how much can I bend back on back? Wait, how much can I bend back on back exercise? So how far can you lean on a back exercise? Well, I think in general, like you don't want to lean on a horizontal type of back exercise. So rows, you probably shouldn't be leaning too much, or else just pretty much momentum. When you're doing a vertical pull, there's some validity to lean a little bit. I wouldn't even focus on leaning. I would just more focus on getting your arm to touch the side of your body on a vertical row, right? And that way you're just kind of lean naturally. And I think the little natural lean from doing a lat pull down that people naturally do is fine, right? So how many sets for biceps a week? Like any other muscle, I mean, start with eight sets, I would say. See how you respond. And then if you really want to increase the volume, or let's say if you don't want to like train to failure every single set, or like just if your workout intensity tends to not be as high, then you can get away with doing more sets. So like start at like 12 in that case. Greetings from Taiwan. Hey. Not a question, but I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Kevin. When's your calorie deficit cookbook coming out? Just guessing if you're making one. Ooh, that would be a good thing. Yeah, I used to have this like little 5 recipe cookbook thing, but not cookbook. It's just like it's like a little cookbook, just 5 recipes. They're like little Thai recipes that I used to make. But I do not sell that anymore, unfortunately. Tips for cutting without the ability to track calories. Good question. So I think the big thing, if you're gonna do things in a more intuitive way, so not tracking, you want to focus on like different food groups, right? I would say try to get some sort of vegetable and some sort of lean source of protein in every single meal you eat. I think that's like the biggest intuitive advice I can give you, because generally the more you incorporate vegetables in your diet, the lower the calories you're probably going to be consuming on the day. And then lean protein, obviously, you want to be able to hit a certain amount of protein on a daily basis in order to like retain as much muscle as possible, or potentially like body recomp and build muscle while losing fat. But also on top of that, you don't want protein just for like the muscle building reason. Generally, protein is more satiating too, so it keeps you more full longer. It also has what they call like a higher thermic effect, meaning your body uses more calories in order to break down the protein than other macronutrients. So overall, eating a high protein diet will also help you stay in a calorie deficit. Okay, I know I'm probably like far behind in the comments, so let me. I'm just gonna scroll. I'm just gonna go straight to like the most recent client comments, so it can be more relevant right now. Is it normal for your lower body to look more jiggly and less shredded than your upper body? So that all comes down to fat distribution. I personally, my physique is literally like that. Right. I tend to hold a lot of body fat in my legs and my lower back. And for men in general, like the stomach area, as well as the lower back, like love handle area is a big area that people tend to retain body fat. So I think that is natural. Yeah, I know some people that have like really lean legs, and then like their arms are a little bit like they retain body fat in their arms. It all comes down to genetics. How do you effectively manage training volume and intensity to avoid overtraining while still eliciting maximal adaptations in advanced gym enthusiasts? That is a really, really solid question. So I think, to be honest, I'm gonna give like 2 answers. First, at like a more like left curve, very high level thing. I personally have found that if you treat your like your general workout routine in if you group them into like mesocycles, so basically different phases of your training throughout the year, generally you're able to avoid overtraining, right? So let's say you have one mesocycle where you're really focusing, let's say like the volume's super low, but you're training to failure every single set. I feel like a lot of people kind of like a lot of advanced to intermediate lifters did this around like a year or 2 ago, when it was like the big thing, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, only training to failure matters. So everyone was like, okay, let me actually just try, like, instead of doing 4 sets like I was doing before, let me like do 2 sets and then increase the intensity, right? I think a lot of people found that effective, both from like making more gains on the strength side as well as muscle, but also like avoiding like they felt good, right? Like they didn't really run into a lot of, let's say like signs of overtraining, because it was just a different thing that they did, right? Like they were used to doing a certain amount of volume over the time. Like if you do something for a long time, I know, especially if you're training hard, you tend to accumulate some sort of fatigue that you're then going to need to like kind of take a step back on. But by changing that your style of training and just lowering the volume overall and just increasing the intensity for those sets that you're doing, it kind of provided this like different source of like kind of like a different style of training, which allowed them to kind of recover a little bit better. Now, so one way is just literally going the whole mesocycle route and just like having different phases. But at like a more like granular level, I'm trying to think of like the biggest thing I would do. Training volume intensity, avoid overtraining while intensity. Honestly, I think that's pretty much it. That's like the most advice I'd probably give to that. Can you grow your chest doing bench press with a Smith machine? Yeah, you definitely can. Tips for increasing squat and bench over time. Ooh, I think so. I think a big piece of advice would be like if you're currently following like the whole 4 sets of 12 every single workout kind of thing, you wanna if your goal is to increase, I'm assuming like your 1 rep max for squat and bench, you have to be working in a lower rep range inherently, right? And kind of building off what I was saying earlier with like mesocycles, basically like different phases of your training. You want to kind of like you want to every so often change up what you're doing. So maybe you'll if you know if let's say if you're currently doing 4 sets of 12, try lowering the sets to like 2 sets of 8, right? Um, and try to apply progressive overload week after week. Let's say you first week you get 8 reps with a certain amount of weight, and then you try to challenge yourself. You increase the weight, and then once you increase the weight, maybe you get like 6 reps. Well, that's okay, right? Following week, you try to apply progressive overload and slowly work up to the 8 reps. Maybe you find week 2, you get 7 reps. Week 3, you get 8 reps. That's literally progressive overload right there. So I think that's a great way you can do it. I'm paranoid that my rear delts won't grow as fast as my front and lateral delts. Should I work rear delts more than front and lateral delts? So yeah, this is also another good question. So I feel like that's a very common like scenario, right? A lot of people tend to have more developed front delts and then less developed rear delts. So what you can do is if rear delts is a priority for you, or like you feel like you're not hitting it as much rear delts than you should, you could move rear delts to the beginning of your workouts, right? So if you're gonna like compared to front delts and side delts, if you move rear delts to the beginning of your workout, you're gonna be more fresh during that workout session. And if you're more fresh, you're probably going to be more locked in. You're able to apply progressive overload better. So that's one thing you can do. You could increase volume too. I think this is the case where it makes sense because like other than like a mid back focused row where even rear delts, they play more of like a secondary role. You're not really going to be directly training rear delts unless you're like intentionally training rear delts compared to, let's say, the front delts, where if you're pretty much pressing, you're going to be stimulating the front delts in some sort of capacity, right? So I think rear delts are one of the muscles and even side delts for that matter, that it makes sense for you to be maybe increasing the volume on. Like as a whole general recommendation, I don't know who you are personally, but on average, I feel like people are probably not training their rear delts well enough in order to actually uh, have them keep up, right? No, number one best upper body for demon back for women and go. So I mean, for men and women, I think will be both the same. Um, if you want to grow your back, I mean, you can't. I would say there's 2 exercises, right? You want to do some sort of vertical pull. In my opinion, I like the lat pull down with just a regular overhand lat pull down. And then you want to do a horizontal row for the mid back. In that case, I personally would recommend some sort of chest supported row where you're more stable. Those are probably pretty much the 2 exercises you need. How to become Sigma? Good question. I think the big thing is just not caring what other people think. I think that's like probably the biggest factor. I always get tendonitis in the inner elbow every time I bench. Any recommendations? So I personally, I haven't dealt with elbow pain when you bench. There could be like a few things that can lead to elbow pain. I can't really, I'm not diagnosing it here, but if your grip is too narrow and you notice that your wrists end up being narrower than your elbows at the bottom of a bench press, so like this, you want to widen that grip. Okay, so that's one thing. If you're, like hard locking out, like very, very forcefully locking out, debatable if that would be like a good idea. You can lock out. There's nothing wrong with locking out, but I wouldn't like hard lock out without really controlling the weight. And yeah, so it's mainly stuff with like ego lifting. That's what I would say there. Hey, Tyler, what's up? Are you actually maintaining your weight or are you in a deficit? I'm definitely not in a deficit. I do not need to be in a deficit right now. I'm generally I take a more like they call it like main gaining approach where I pretty much eat around my maintenance. I got to the point where I don't even really like track anymore. I try to do a more like intuitive uh, approach and how I make sure that I'm like relatively at my maintenance is my weight doesn't really fluctuate, right? So that's kind of my thing. But I am trying to put on muscle while still being in this maintenance phase, and I know it's definitely not optimal, especially at the stage of where I am right now. To be main gaining, like I'm probably not going to be putting on a lot of muscle by being at maintenance currently, but I'm playing the social media game and trying to stay relatively lean. However, I think for me, right, I tend to stay like I'm naturally quite lean, and my body doesn't have like any problems with me being at the body composition I'm currently at, which is a good thing, right? So I think a big so just talk real quick. A lot of people, I think there's a lot of um, pressure to be at like a certain body fat percentage, especially if you're in the fitness industry and stuff. And depending on like genetically where your body likes to be at, it's harder for others, right? Some people struggle to be lean. I'm fortunate enough not to be in that camp, but people like, and I'm sure someone like, let's say David Lade, he's also like naturally really lean. He probably doesn't struggle to be lean that very much either. But obviously, like the problem with people like me is it's hard to actually put on muscle. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I struggle with staying in a calorie deficit and tracking my calorie intake. What should I do here? So, if right, like first off, you don't necessarily need to track in order to be in a deficit. Obviously, it's more precise for sure. But if you're finding it hard to actually stay committed to your fitness goals because you just like dread tracking, then it's better in my opinion, it's better to at least try taking a more intuitive approach. It's just I was talking a little bit earlier, but great way to intuitively try to be in a deficit. If you prioritize protein and vegetables, that's pretty much like the two biggest things you could focus on. And if you just think every single meal you eat, all right, where's my lean source of protein? Where's my veggies? Like that is, I would tell you that is like 80% of the battle right there. So I happen to be losing body weight while still growing my muscles and getting stronger. Is this fine? Less body weight equals less grams of protein needed. I'm looking good. So it sounds like you're losing body fat while building muscle, but a little bit faster on the losing body fat side than building muscle side, which is super common, right? Which I think that's perfectly fine. Like I don't think you're doing literally what people call a body recomposition, which is like your best of both worlds, right? It's like you're losing body fat um, while also putting on muscle at the same time. And technically, like you mentioned, like less body weight equals less grams of protein. That's true. Like total body weight, yeah, it makes sense. But your lean body, it's more about like when you hear the protein thing, right? Like, oh, eat at 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. A lot of people attach that to just like their total body weight, but ideally it should actually be more of your lean body weight. Okay. So that's just your full body weight times like your lean mass, which is your lean mass is just 1 minus your body fat percentage. So if you're like, let's say 20% body fat, it would be your body weight times 0.8, right? 1 minus 20% body fat. So yeah. What are your favorite foods for volume and satiety? Great question. So I think on the vegetable side, pretty much any veggie works, but broccoli is so satiating. Like like the cruciferous veggies, broccoli, cauliflower. I would say like I don't know if you're familiar, if people watching here, gailan, right? Like the Chinese vegetable gailan, which is basically Chinese broccoli. I think those are also great because they're very satiating. Bok choy, you can kind of go in that camp as well. Outside like vegetables and you know more delicious stuff, I would say honestly, I think people underestimate like lean protein, right? Like if you're eating a lot of lean source of protein, you generally feel pretty tired, like pretty full. Even though volume wise it might not be as much. Um, yeah, I think those two are big ones. I know there's unlike the junk food side, quote unquote junk food, like snack side. I think fruit is a great option, right? Pretty much any fruit would be good. I think what else was there? I think popcorn can be a decent processed option. But yeah. Are you a gamer? Nah, I used to play a lot of video games. I stopped in 2020. Right when my TikTok started popping off, I was like, I can't be playing games right now. So I just quit it cold turkey and I delved right in. Is intermittent oh good I like this. Is intermittent fasting affecting workout results? Currently doing the 24, so 20-hour fast, 4-hour eating window. So it depends on like where you're working out in your fast. I think if you work out at the end of your fast, you're probably gonna be pretty tired. If you're working out, let's say right after you just finish your fast, then you can't necessarily like eat right after. And like ideally, you want to try to get a meal, not in. I'm not saying like you need a, like the whole 1 hour feeding window. That doesn't matter. But generally, you want to kind of get a meal in like in the next like 6 or so hours if possible. At least I try to. But I think the biggest thing is if intermittent fasting is putting you in a big deficit, that ultimately plays a way bigger role in how much muscle you actually build compared to whether you're doing IF or not. So I think that's the biggest thing to consider. But as a whole, intermittent fasting is probably not like ideal if your main goal is like is to maximize muscle growth. However, if you're also trying to lose body fat, it could be a really good option, right? So. Should I directly train upper traps? Well, that means if you want to train, like, let me like, do you want to train upper traps? Like, do you want a bigger upper traps? If so, then yeah, you should train it. But if you're like me, who has like super overreactive upper traps that like tend to grow if I just look at them, then I try not to really directly train them just because I think it can overpower my physique. What are your thoughts on vegan cuisine and plant-based meat protein and protein sources for protein sources? So I think from a macronutrient perspective, like they're solid, right? Like it's I think the plant-based protein there's a segment. Like if you're vegan, then you probably should be consuming the more processed plant protein sources, like like the was like wheat, fake ground meat, that sort of thing. I think it could be a decent option, right? Now, do I think like overall is that like healthy for you? Like that's kind of questionable, right? But I personally don't. I didn't do like enough. I'm personally not knowledgeable enough to like know any deeper than like a macronutrient level, just because I never looked into it. Is rice any good if I need to lose weight? I mean, it can be, right? I think overall, if you're trying to lose weight, carbs, other than like junk food and stuff, if you're thinking about like real like main meals, and I know a lot of people watching probably eat rice a lot quite often. Carbs are generally the easiest place to decrease the portion size in order to create a deficit. Just because it's like if you normally eat a meal with 2 cups of rice, let's say it takes up half your plate. If you then add veggies and only make it take up a quarter of your plate, that's you're probably cutting off a good like 180 calories out of your out of your meal right there just from carbs. So you can eat you can eat some rice. That is always fine. But I would say you want to be modest with your portion sizes of rice. You don't want to just like eat a bunch of rice and then like just a little bit of more substantial stuff like protein and stuff. So is it okay to shower immediately after a workout? Yeah, I think that should be fine. Do you have a horror embarrassing gym story? I mean, so this is a good question. The worst thing that has ever happened to me was I broke my finger at the gym. And what was happening was I think that day I was going for a shoulder press and I was warming up. I'm by the dumbbell rack, and I'm warming up with these 55-pound dumbbells. I finish warming up, and then I go to the rack, and someone put the 50-pound dumbbells in the 55-pound spot. And then the 50-pound spot is like right next to it. I'm like, dude, like, you could literally just put it like you. I don't know why. Like, I'm this guy probably just, whatever the case. I saw that. I'm like, bro, like, it's in the wrong spot. So I dropped the dumbbells, and because I didn't like let them, like I didn't let them down, really low to the ground. It bounced and then clipped my finger under the rack. So it literally bounced and then like freaking cut my finger on like the corner of a rack. So this ended up happening where my finger got hit like in the corner, right? And turned out like I broke my finger, like I fractured it. I literally fractured like the tiniest bone, though. They call it the distal phalanx, right? It's like the last bone in your finger, right? I clipped that, and it was just like fractured. So that was pretty terrible. And that put me out for like 2 months. That was definitely the worst injury I've ever had. The only time I ever had surgery too. It's pretty awful. So hey Tyler, is it okay if I did boxing after I did weight training? Yeah. Does it affect my gains or no? I mean, so if you're gonna do cardio, and your main priority is to weight train, it's best to weight train first and then do cardio later. So I mean, there's no problem there. The only problem, the only like thing I would see, the only reason why boxing would be detrimental to your gains is if it's making it hard for you to, if it's putting you in too big of a calorie deficit, then that's the only time it will hinder your gains. So it's like if you normally eat like 2,200 calories, but with boxing, right, you end up needing 2,400 calories to be at maintenance, then you're technically in a deficit, and that's not going to be optimal for building muscle. So then you bench the guy. No, I like it was so fun. I like that happened, right? Like I clipped my finger. I didn't even know it was broken at the time, but I saw my like nail kind of bleeding, and I'm like, okay. I thought at first I thought I just chipped my nail, and which I was already bummed about. Like I was like, okay, I'm probably just not gonna have a nail. But yeah, after that happened, it's funny, right? Because I was just warming up, and then after that happened, I literally put the weights back, and then I left the gym. So it's like this guy just came to warm up, do one set, and then just left. Do you do any sports outside bodybuilding? I used to run track and field, but nowadays, no, I don't really. I mean, like not at a high level or anything. Recreationally, I like pickleball and a little bit of basketball, but I, this is like I don't. It's just for fun. You should collab with Lee Lem. Yeah, yeah. People have said I look like him. Too bad we're on like other sides of the earth, like quite literally. Tyler, how's it going? What's your basic advice for growing fitness content? YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I like this question. So I think the biggest thing is just consistency, right? If you look back in my backlog of videos and all my pages, I literally upload 3 videos per day, and I've been doing that for nearly over 4 years now. Right. So I think the big thing is consistency, but at the same time, don't just rely on being consistent. You want to be improving your content. Right. A good example is I started out with the Sigma face training, like that stuff, and then people were like, okay, what's going on here? Like people were like, sometimes people were like, I don't understand what's going on. And even though I had a description on YouTube Shorts, there's no description, right? At least it's very hard to no one reads the description on YouTube Shorts. So what I did was, okay, logically speaking, why not I just explain the video after my normal clip? So for the people that want to just the short, quick advice, they can just watch the first part of the video. But for those that want an explanation, they just watch, they keep watching later. So yeah, I think posting consistently and then figuring out ways to on how to improve the content you make. I think those two things are my biggest pieces of advice. It's kind of like lifting, right? Be consistent and then you just improve. Tyler, on pull days, should I do only 3 back exercises? Well, it depends on what those 3 back exercises are. But I will say, yes, you can do a pull workout where you're only doing 3 back exercises. I think that's definitely possible. Tyler, will you ever do a fan meet? That would be awesome. I just don't. I think eventually, yeah, sure, why not? But I think logistically, I'm not sure how that would work. I haven't gone to any of like I know like the Arnold happened and there's like a bunch of bodybuilding conventions and stuff, but I haven't gone to a single one since I've been on social media. I went to the Chicago Fit Expo back in like 2017. I met Juji Mufu, but outside that, I've never been to one. Villain arc? Nah, no villain arc. Hero arc, all right. I've improved my technique and physique by watching your shorts. Love to hear it. Tyler, we need to collab with Lee Lem. I know. I gotta fly to Australia, or he has to fly to Chicago. But he's bodybuilding and stuff, so more likely I'm gonna have to fly to him. I'm sure he has a pretty strict routine. I'm a little bit more flexible. As long as I have my laptop and I can edit and also shoot videos, I'm pretty much good. It can be a T-bar, lat pull down, rear delt. Is that enough? It can be a T-bar, lat pull down, lat row, rear delts. Is that enough on pull day? Yeah, that's actually very solid. Considering that the lat pull down is a wider grip, yeah, that's extremely solid. Besides gym, do you have any hidden talents or interests? Funny that your name's Guitar Strings, but I love singing. It's so random, but yeah, I like singing in my free time. Y'all probably thought I was gonna say I play guitar, but unfortunately, I broke my. Well, I didn't break this finger, but those. So I don't know if you guys are young, you probably don't understand this, but there used to be school desks that open up. So imagine like a regular desk, flat, and then you can open up a compartment. Like let's say this is the work surface you usually put your books on and stuff like that. You open up the compartment, and then there's you can put books into the desk. Well, I smashed it on my finger because my teacher scared me one time. People were saying oh, you can sue the teacher, or you could have sued the teacher, but why do I want to sue a teacher? That's kind of I'm not trying to ruin people's lives, but yeah, I hurt my finger. So as you see, it doesn't bend properly anymore. Look at that. Look at that. So I have one messed up finger, right? The one I broke. The reason why it's crooked is because I started lifting too early. So I had a big cast on it, and I was supposed to be out for 2 months, 8 weeks. I started lifting after 5 weeks. So that's why this is crooked. But now I have this crooked finger over here, and then my pinky has been like this since 4th grade. You can see it. My girlfriend hates when I do this. But yeah. Okay. Did incline bench focus on strength and chest press focus on squeeze? Okay, I did. Let's see how well Goyo did. All right, guys. So he said I did incline bench focus on stretch and chest press focus on squeeze. I'm assuming the chest press was a machine chest press. I did pec flies focus on squeeze and cable flies focus on stretch. Is that enough on a chest day? Yeah, that is definitely enough. It might be a little bit redundant in my opinion. I don't think you necessarily need to. This is how I approach it, right? I would say that a chest press is pretty much going to be focusing on stretch, right? Right, across the board, especially if you're working dumbbells, barbells, free weight chest presses you're pretty much going to be already working on the stretch, meaning the stretch part's the hardest part. And then with a pec deck fly, where you're actually able to get arm abduction, meaning you can get more short, right? You can get your arms across your body. That would be focused more on squeeze. So pretty much a cable fly, in my opinion, or a pec deck fly, they're all focused more on the squeeze because you can actually get tension going this way, right? Well, kind of this way actually. And then your chest press is where it's more linear, where you're only pushing outward, especially if you're doing free weight. It's more stretch focus. So he's flipping this off. No, thank you for the motivation, bro, and techniques. Appreciate it. Appreciate the love. Thank you so much. Literally, your content is all we ever need for the gym. Appreciate that, man. I try to be as helpful and as grounded as possible. Favorite rear delt exercise: high-low cable rear delt fly. Any tips to grow my chest? I feel like it's super small compared to the rest of my upper body. I have a bench, but only dumbbells because I don't go to a gym. Yeah, the good thing you can do a lot with just dumbbells. I think honestly, if the bench is adjustable with inclines, right? You can do a flat press, you can do a incline bench press. If you have a lighter set of dumbbells, you could do some sort of dumbbell fly, and over time, that's pretty much all you need. You could also use the dumbbells. If they're not that heavy, you can use the dumbbells to elevate your hands and do push-ups with the dumbbells in your hand so you can get a better stretch. That's all you need. That's really all you need. Just take those steps to failure. And yeah. All right, Goyo, chill out, man. Put the user in time. I'm gonna have to put you on timeout for 5 minutes. Any tips on how to address asymmetry between left and right arm? Good question. So, any times you're dealing with like a muscular imbalance, right arm stronger than left, that sort of thing, working with isolateral movements are ideal. So dumbbells, good example. And if you're doing any exercise involving two dumbbells, those are isolateral movements, right? Meaning each side is responsible for its own weight. So if you predominantly make the focus of your training on isolateral movements, that is your best bet. Dumbbells is like the most obvious one. Some machines, right, like hammer strength machines, where the plate loaded ones, where one side you push the other side, and the others you load another plate on the other side. That's also another example of isolateral machines. I made a video on this, by the way. How to fix a muscular imbalance. I think that should be helpful. What's your go-to boba order? Asking the questions, man. So I personally like roasted oolong. It's a couple things, right? So if I go with share tea, I would get it's so weird, but I would get a roasted oolong brewed tea. So not even no milk tea, just like it's literally just tea and sugar. For some reason, I really like the flavor of that. So I would get that, half sugar, less ice. But otherwise, if I'm like going to the average boba shop, I'd probably get a roasted oolong milk tea, half sugar, less ice. And then if they have a hoji cha milk tea, I'd probably try the hoji cha. Is working out for aesthetics not? I think he's asking, do you work out for aesthetics? Wait, does working out for aesthetics not give you strength? No, there's some sort of carryover, right? But if you're talking about like maximizing one or the other, it's two different goals, right? Like if you have, they're not like directly the same. So even though working out in general will get you more aesthetic and will get you stronger, if you try to like do the most with a certain one, let's say you're trying to maximize for strength, it might not lead you to be the most aesthetic, because generally if you're trying to maximize with strength, you probably would have to end up bulking and being at a little bit of a higher body fat percentage compared to what's generally deemed aesthetic, which is probably going to be sub 15% body fat. So, which also might not have you like, if you're sub 15% body fat, depending on the visual, if they have a higher body fat set point, if they're not used to being like 10% body fat, then you're not going to be as strong. So, I mean, at a certain point, there's a little bit of give and take that you have to do, but it's not binary, right? It's not like, oh, I want to train for strength, so I need to, I need to do everything I can to be stronger. It's a spectrum, right? It's ultimately a spectrum. So is a single muscle workout split good for building muscle? Yeah, so that's known as a bro split. I wouldn't recommend it, just because ideally you want to train every muscle group at least twice per week, and it's very hard to do that on a bro split. So I personally wouldn't recommend it. But can you build muscle on it? Yeah, definitely. Have you ever looked for medical advice about those little lumps on your chest? Not trying to be mean or anything. My question comes out of pure curiosity. Yeah, so those bumps on my chest, right? Some people have said it's acne, so it's definitely a sign that Tyler is taking steroids. It's not that, guys. Those bumps from my chest, it's something known as steatocystoma multiplex. So I'm gonna type it in the chat if you guys are curious how to spell it. But I have steatocystoma multiplex. And basically, I get these little growths on my chest. They don't hurt or anything, but they also don't go away, unfortunately. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So I actually did get it checked out. It was like 5 years ago now. So, and little do people know, like the ones on my chest are really noticeable, but I actually have some on my like a few on my arms too. That I guess people don't see it. I guess is a good thing. Do you experience any hair loss with creatine? Tempted to add it in my routine, but those hair loss rumors. No, so no, I personally didn't. And the whole hair loss thing, I forgot the specifics, but basically the rumor arose because there was a study that saw that taking creatine led to like elevated levels of this one I forgot specifically the one, like the whatever metric chemical, right? But basically creatine elevated this certain let's call it the certain thing, right? That is directly correlated with hair loss. However, that study has never been replicated, meaning that result was never replicated. So in future studies, when they tried testing for hair loss or for someone taking creatine leading to increased levels in that, in that one hormone or thing, right? They could never find it again. So it was kind of like a one-off thing that scared a lot of people. But generally, creatine is not going to cause hair loss. No. DHT. Yeah, DHT. There it is. So yeah, basically creatine. That one study showed that taking creatine resulted in increased levels of DHT, but it wasn't replicated. Meaning, in future studies, there were no people tried testing for taking creatine and then seeing if DHT levels rose, but it didn't. So yeah. I'm short like you. Oh, thanks. Maybe even shorter, 5'5", and have really small wrists and forearms. What's the best way to grow them? I've been working out for months and haven't seen much change. Yeah, so dude, you're literally me, bro, because I have very skinny wrists too. The good thing about skinny wrists is it makes your forearms look bigger, right? The lighting wasn't that good. But I think the biggest things for forearms is, to be honest, like if you're already regularly training your back, you're regularly training biceps, you're regularly training legs and doing, stuff like walking lunges, deadlifts, that sort of stuff. Your forearms will generally like help. These are all things that indirectly train your forearms. And as you apply progressive overload on your back exercises, on your bicep exercises, on your walking lunges, that sort of stuff, your forearms will also tend to grow with it, right? However, your mileage may vary depending on the individual. So if you want to focus more on, like, if you're like, okay, I want to really, grow, like have even bigger forearms, then you would want to directly train them. I think the biggest bang for your buck is training the brachioradialis, which is this thing right here, the top of your forearm over here. This is a really big muscle. How you train this is with hammer curls or reverse curls, right? And then another thing you want to do is the forearm flexors, which is with wrist curls, right? I made some videos on this, so if you type in like Tyler Path forearm exercise, you'll probably find some. But those are the two areas I would focus on. Okay, it's getting late, guys. I'm gonna answer a few more questions and then resume on my credit card point researching. If my delts are lacking in my physique, should I separate it with my chest? and have a dedicated day with it. That is one solution you could do. You could also move the delt exercises earlier into your workout. Yeah, those are two things you can do. Pookie. Opinion on 30 to 60 day. Opinion on 60-30 day creatine cycle. You don't need to cycle creatine. Just take 5 grams per day, and that's pretty much it. I don't think you need to cycle it. Can I donate? Do that face thing, bro. Can I donate? What face thing? Ramen or pho? Ooh. I think overall for me, I like pho. I used to love ramen too. My girlfriend loves ramen. She used to too. But I think for me, pho has really been winning me over. I think for me, when I eat food, I like feeling good afterwards too. There's a word in Thai, right? It's called lian. Lian. It means kind of like it means greasy and like very oily, right? What Thai people say after they have a good meal that leaves you feeling like not super bloated and not super like gross. They say it like this phrase like "man may lian," which means it's not greasy, right? It's not oily. It's not lian, right? And I think pho is not lian, but ramen is. So after you eat a bowl of ramen, it's like you don't like you feel kind of like you ate McDonald's, right? It's like bro, right? But if you're pho, you don't get that. And I think Viet food as a whole, you don't get that, which I really like. And I think when I eat out, most of the times nowadays, I eat out a good amount, by the way. I like food. A lot of the food I eat out, like the food that I eat nowadays, is all pretty healthy, even if I eat out. So like, sure, sometimes I'll have like Korean barbecue. Like Korean barbecue is probably the least healthy thing I eat out too, you know. But other than that, I like eating Viet food a lot. I like chicken teriyaki. There's a really good chicken teriyaki place in suburbs of Chicago called Joy Teriyaki. Super underrated. I love that place. Yeah, and these are all places that aren't lean, right? They're not oily, not greasy. So macros are probably better on it too. Okay, Lee Lem. This dang, a lot of people made the connection too. That's awesome. I definitely want to make a video. No, I definitely want to collab with Lee Lem. It's just I mentioned it earlier, but we're like literally on the other side of the world. So that's the only issue. It's distance. But your glasses suit you well. Thank you. Thank you. White or brown rice? Brown rice. The little bit more fiber makes it more satiating, which is a good thing. Training legs 2 days a week is sufficient for ideal physique. Yep. How to improve lower traps, bro? I can't even feel it. Lower traps. So I don't think you need to directly isolate low. Like there's no way to isolate lower traps. But if you're doing let's say a mid back focus row where you're squeezing your shoulder blades together and then letting them come back and squeezing them again, that's pretty much the best you can do with it. So, and if you want them to like look more visible, it probably helps to be at a lower body fat percentage as well. When you go out with your friends, how do you stay away from unhealthy foods? So I don't always like stay away from it, right? But I think planning around it is good. If you know you're gonna eat out on a Friday night, right? Because like you're going out with your friends, well, you can plan for it earlier in the day. Maybe eat healthier, right? Make sure maybe eat a little bit lighter on the carbs, lighter on the fats, and just eat like vegetables and protein, right? And that kind of gives you a little bit of leeway later on when you go out with your friends. So thank you, Bill Clinton. What do you think about keto? I personally don't like keto. So even though like I generally try to eat lower carb, just because out of convenience, it's easier to cut down on carbs. I wouldn't recommend keto. I just think it's not sustainable for most people because you're pretty much cutting out an entire food group. You know what? Might as well go to the 1 hour mark in this live stream. I know I said I was gonna leave earlier, but I'm gonna stay until an hour. Any plans to visit India? Ooh, that would be really cool. Um, I don't know anyone in India, unfortunately, but I think eventually I want to travel and stuff. So Thailand was really fun when I went. So and I'm trying to do this thing where basically I'm trying to travel for free by leveraging credit card points. I've been into this stuff like for a few years now, but the trip I took to Thailand, I actually didn't. Well, I paid like $200 for 3 tickets, economy tickets. But for 3 tickets to Thailand for only $200, pretty good, right? And it's because I was using credit card points and stuff. So take away if I have a history, but I digress. I guess I want to stick to more fitness topics right now. Tally, can I continue to take whey protein if I have a history of gout or high in uric acid in my system? That's definitely something you'd want to talk to a medical professional about rather than someone on YouTube. You've been using Chase credit cards, different ecosystems. Do you consider collabs with other YouTubers? Yeah, that'd be dope. Have you had McDonald's Mac recently? What do you mean Mac? Like mac and cheese? What's the most underrated machine in the gym? Machine lateral raise. Most underrated is the machine lateral raise for sure. No one uses it. The bent arm one where it's like this, so good. It's so stable. I find that it's easier to push to failure on a machine lateral raise, a bent arm machine lateral raise, than any other lateral raise variation, including cables. Dumbbells pretty much impossible to really train to failure with because your form just kind of breaks down, right? It's hard to like stay up, right? Cable lateral raise, I find that honestly kind of similar where you tend to reach failure and it's hard to kind of like those reps where like you kind of like want to push through. Let's say like you're trying to move your arm like you're trying to like push through. It's like impossible to do it. But on a machine lateral raise, because you're so stable, you can kind of like fight through it and slowly kind of get it up. Yeah, it's just more stable. It's just more stable than other variations. Have you had a McDonald's Big Mac? Oh, Big Mac. Nah, I don't think I've ever had a Big Mac. I used to eat what do you call it? Chicken nuggets. I was more of a Happy Meal chicken nuggets. Get my little Power Rangers toy. Transformers or something. Hi, Tyler. My question is due to bodybuilders' mental health, which isn't talked about enough. I agree. I want to know if you're doing good, any sense of happiness achieved. Yes, actually. So I am proud to say that I'm pretty happy overall. And I think my mental health is in a pretty solid position. I think my life right now is stressful with all the content I make and stuff. Not complaining at all, by the way, because I put myself in a situation. It's such a privilege to be able to literally talk to all of you guys right now. Like it's crazy, right? And to see there's 600,000 of y'all now. It's freaking crazy, right? So I'm not complaining when I say that, but definitely, yeah. Ever since I went full time, this definitely more stressful overall, but overall doing good. So. Hi Tyler, what's your favorite easy quick meal to cook? Oh, if you get like chicken thighs or chicken breasts, you just get them raw. Get a fork, stab into them to make some holes. Pour some Korean barbecue marinade sauce in them. Marinate in like a Ziploc bag for at least an hour. I just do overnight. Or honestly, if you forgot to marinate, you just like kind of slosh it around a little bit. Throw it in the air fryer and boom, perfect. You can also cut them into little cubes if you want. more, but for a very quick thing, literally just chicken breast, stab it, pour some good sauce on it. In my opinion, I think the Korean barbecue marinade is really good, and that's pretty much it. Should I do RDL on back or leg day? Leg day for sure. I wouldn't consider deadlift a back exercise. It's more of a posterior chain exercise, so glutes and hamstrings. For 600K special, you should oil up. Well, on that note, no, I'm going to answer one more thing. So Dylan Isaiah asked, "Hey Tyler, as a fitness influencer, can you share what it was like entering adulthood and pursuing your goals? I'm anxious about pursuing engineering and could use some advice." Yeah, that's honestly a really good question. So to kind of share a little bit about myself, right? So I started creating content my junior year of college. So before I actually graduated. So I was fortunate enough to kind of start earlier, and then by the time I graduated, I already built a little bit of a following, right? Um, I think the big thing is when you're young, you can take risks without as much of a downside. It highly depends on your situation. It's every individual might be different, but in generally speaking, you're able to take more risks when you're younger across the board, right? And I think the biggest thing I've learned ever since I graduated college is generally when you take that risk, because if you're the type of person that's risk averse, which it kind of sounds like, because you're anxious about pursuing engineering stuff, you try harder, right? And I found comfort from knowing that I'm taking a big risky move by just doing more, right? Researching more, working harder than other people, right? There's a level of you have to work smart as well, of course, right? But I think those two things. If you're young, try to take risks, and when you're taking a risk, know that it's a risk, and put your heart and soul into it, right? In general, you're only able to do that if you really like something about what you're doing. So if you really like engineering, pursue it, right? Literally take that risk. I don't know what that risk will look like, but really try to get to your dream, right? Because I think if you don't really at least try pursuing your dreams, is that really a life that you'll be content with in the long term? And there was actually a point in time I never talked about. Well, actually, no, I did. I did a video how I spoke about quitting my job. Right, I was working in technology consulting, and there was a time where I was like, oh, I had social media. My personal interest was always in fitness, but I was doing technology consulting because obviously it made more money at the time, right? And I had to decide okay, do I'm a year into my job. Do I stay in technology consulting? Do I try to pursue that career and go that whole career path and go more corporate, right? Or do I pursue social media? And for a little bit, I remember there was a time where I was like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of happy where I am. I'm getting decent pay in technology consulting. I'm about to get promoted. I have a lot of free time now, so I can learn how to sing and stuff. And it's crazy to think that now it's so different, right? I left, and even though I'm more busy than I was in technology consulting, I don't have a lot of free surprisingly, even though I'm working for myself, I don't have a lot of time, free time nowadays. But the way I look, my outlook on life is so much different. Nowadays, my outlook on life is so I'm like a little kid. I'm like, dude, there's so much I can do. There's so much out there, right? There's so much opportunity out there to take your life into whatever direction you want, right? And I think I wouldn't have been thinking that way if I still worked in technology consulting and took the quote unquote safer route. So yeah, this is like the stereotypical like I took the harder route, right? Or sorry, not the path less paved, right? But yeah, I think that was just cool. I don't know, but yeah, I like these questions. I like the more. I don't like fitness questions good too. Don't get me wrong, but I think that was a really good question, Dylan. I hope I didn't bore you because I was talking for like 5 minutes. Let's see. Okay. It's so scary to leave a comfortable paying job. Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, but I think here's another piece of advice for those that are kind of thinking about doing something like that. I think people tend to think of like people tend to think in terms of extremes, right? Either you stay in your comfortable job and then don't pursue whatever other dream you have, or you pursue your dream and like you quit your job out of thin air and you just like pursue your dreams. But there's also an option where you can do both, right? And that's kind of what I did. Like you don't have to like just quit cold turkey and just go into whatever like pursue your dreams without a plan or anything or without any sign that like you'll be able to sustain yourself. You can also do both at the same time. Obviously, it requires more work, but like you got to put in your hours. You got to put in the hours at the end of the day. So I think that's also a really big thing. You can always do like there's definitely a way to do both. There's for a while, even I mean now is no different, but I don't know if you guys knew I pretty much stopped drinking like 2 years ago. Like I don't go out. I don't and with that is I don't like go out or anything. Like I haven't gone out since like college. And it was just a decision I made. And I'm like, it's what I don't know. It's just what I have to do. If I go out drinking, I'm not going to feel as good. It's going to throw my schedule off, and then I'm not going to be able to wake up on time to go to the gym and film my TikToks before I go to my job at I almost said the company. I don't know how to say the company, but before I go to my technology consulting job, right? This is what I was thinking about when I was doing both at the same time. But you just make sacrifices and you kind of make it work. So kind of made this more into a career advice video, but tips to get a girlfriend. Yeah, the biggest thing. So this is another thing. Maybe I should make a whole video on this, but I don't think I've ever told you anyone about this, but I went a big like a decent period of my life in the high school. I would say high school to like middle of college, where like yeah, I didn't like your boy was like struggling, right? And I think the big thing was I just wasn't myself. At the time, right? I was very like whitewashed, and there's nothing wrong with being whitewashed, right? But I kind of had no business being whitewashed, if that made sense, right? Like obviously I'm a Asian dude, right? And if I think about all my best friends and stuff like that, they're like all Asian guys. I just relate. I was more interested in personally. I'm more interested in like hobby wise, right? To more like Asian adjacent stuff. Like I like working at boba shops rather than a coffee shop, for example, right? And I think it wasn't until like I kind of embraced that I like had more confidence. And I think that like people can kind of tell, especially girls, that like you're faking it, right? And like that you're not comfortable with who you are because you try to compensate, right? And it's, like they can kind of like weed that out. So I think the biggest thing is just like be yourself, which is obviously harder than people might think because there's a lot of things saying like, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. Like, yeah, you definitely work on yourself, right? Definitely work out, and that eventually, like, if you work out, you're gonna look better, and obviously that stuff helps. But at the end of the day, I think the bigger thing is just learning to be comfortable with who you are, and then like you just end up like being smoother. I don't know, more confident. That's very inspiring. You, switch your home again. Okay. Hey Tyler, if you could, what would be the one thing you would change and do differently if you started your fitness journey again? Hmm. I think the big thing, I probably would have learned how to deadlift before I like actually use heavy weight because I hurt my lower back like junior year of high school, around like a year and a half into my fitness journey, just because I was deadlifting wrong, right? And to this day, I still occasionally get lower back pain because a lot of people when you're young, right, you think, oh, like okay, if I get an injury, yeah, it sucks, right? But I'll recover from it in like a couple months and I'll be fine, right? But that's not always the case, especially when it comes to lower back pain. Um, so yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing. I would have been more cautious about um, my form when I was deadlifting, because it's something I deal with to this day. Like literally, like it affects you. It's going to affect me for the rest of my life, right? I have to deal with occasionally getting lower back pain if I do something wrong, I'm more sensitive to getting lower back pain now. So I think that's kind of partly why I make the videos I do, because I know there's a lot of like new lifters out there, and they think, oh, if my form is like decent, but no, you want your form to be good, right? Not only from like a optimization standpoint, where you want to try to make the exercise as effective as possible on whatever muscle you want to grow, but also from an injury prevention perspective. I think that's something no one really thinks about. Um, how much were you lifting with wrong deadlift form? I was deadlifting like 275, but yeah, okay. All right, I'm like, I know I said I was gonna get off in an hour, but I was having fun with the questions earlier. But I'll answer one more and then I'll head out. How do I get rid of these love handles? So unfortunately for guys, right, love handles is like the last area people tend to lose body fat in, and it's also the first area people tend to get the most body fat on, right? Like the stomach area. So there's only one process when it comes to losing body fat. You just have to maintain a calorie deficit for long enough until your body looks the way that you want it to look. And most likely, if you're talking about getting rid of your love handles, you're probably going to be lean everywhere else before you start seeing, like, start really, really substantially getting rid of love handles. Unless you're at like a really high body fat percentage, and like then incrementally your love handles will decrease. But there's going to be some lingering until you get very lean, and you can't control that. Honestly, I think the way to look at it is, if you get to that point, well, you're pretty much going to be lean after everywhere else, so you don't have any fat loss problems anymore at that point, I guess. But yeah. Bro, I got rejected today. I feel like shit. Oh, I didn't mean to swear. How do I forget this? Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming you're pretty young. It's a part of life, right? Like, I know that's such brutal advice. I wish I can give something better. But I think it's an opportunity to now understand. All right, you know, you got two choices, right? You continue being sad, or you get over it. You use it as fuel to improve your life, and eventually you're not going to get rejected. That person, is just kind of like a little chapter in your life, not even a chapter, right? But yeah, I think that's the importance of self-improvement, especially as a guy when you're younger. So yeah. So, and yeah, if you would have never asked, you would have never known. That is true. That's true, my G. So, it's good that you're putting your neck out there. So, yeah. Use the 1, 2, 3 method. Is that like you have to do it? You have to do what you're thinking before you count 3 seconds in your head. Okay? I want to answer this one more question too, because there's some good juicy questions going here. I know I've been edging y'all for like 20 minutes now, but yo Tyler, what are your thoughts on Mario Rio's advice on fitness? So, I think overall, I understand what he's trying to do, right? Like his whole angle with athletic training. I think there's a valid, uh, there's some valid validity to it, right? Um, But overall, I think some of his takes don't make sense, right? Um, just because you're not training on your feet doesn't mean the exercise is ineffective. And I think uh, that's like there's plenty of machine exercises that are um, arguably better for muscle growth. Um, and I think if you're claiming athletic bodybuilding will lead to more muscle growth than stuff that's more optimized for muscle growth, that's just a claim that you can't really make, right? Um, so yeah, that's what I would say there. So we need the video. What video? Are we talking about like life advice and stuff? Would you guys be interested if I made like a second channel on non-fitness related stuff? I want to gauge if that sounds interesting to y'all or not. If I make it, I was thinking more like improvement, like just like more broadly improvement stuff, but not like the whole guru improvement things, but just more general stuff that I think would be helpful in your life outside of fitness. So a big part was like personal finance. I growing up, I never knew anything about personal finance, but thank God for personal finance YouTube, right? And learning the powers of compound interest and knowing how like a retirement account works, how to save money on taxes. These are things that people don't. These are things I had to learn myself, and so like I think because I had to learn myself, I find them really interesting. So yes, yes, he said you can be a Mario Kart pro. Yes, yes. Yes, but in your main channel, why do I have to? So the thing is, if I do it on my main channel, it's probably not gonna get views. Unfortunately, like I can already, if I make like a little video on left field, like most people watch me for fitness, I understand that, right? So likely it's not gonna do well, so I'll probably have to do it on a second channel. Um, a singing channel. I have some song covers on my If you go to my oldest videos, you'll see that I used to do song covers. They're not that good. I had to edit it myself, and I found the hardest thing to do is like, um, I don't know how you do it, like produce, like process music, like how to actually like equalize everything and make it sound like normal. Um, but yeah, some people already discovered that due to algo. I think well, yeah, I mean, cause like so like my all my videos are about fitness. So if I do a video that's not about fitness, it's probably just not going to do good because people that watch me is for fitness and then they see me like doing some other stuff, it's probably not going to do as well. I noticed that, unfortunately, I noticed that like when I was in Thailand, I tried doing like more fun videos, like a full day of eating and stuff, but y'all are just not interested in that stuff, you know? So it is what it is though. Some girl keeps looking at me during the gym, but I don't know, maybe she has a crush on me. Yeah, I mean, there's only one way to find out. What other languages do you speak? I speak Thai. Do cooking shirtless, bruh. Dude, I'm gonna get like oil splatters on my body and like make me flinch and stuff. But I didn't even see those eating videos. Yeah, yeah. See, they don't push it out. People don't click on it. You know. How come some of your shorts end right before you finish? This is something I hate about YouTube Shorts. So when I upload on YouTube Shorts, I can only upload up to a minute long when it comes to shorts. If I upload longer, it doesn't work. Right. So that's why I'm sorry. I'm honestly it's so stupid. I know. Yeah. So I try to keep my explanations closer to the minute mark. But for the full ones you can find on TikTok, I guess. But yeah, I feel like that's something that YouTube has to fix, you know. But okay. Okay. Well, any plans to collab with other fitness YouTubers? Eventually, I think would be cool. Yeah. I'm not too like close to the like fitness industry or like I don't know like I'm not like friends with a lot. I'm not like buddy with like a lot of people in the fitness industry just because I'm in Chicago. So nah, that's just an excuse. I'm just terrible. I was terrible with networking. But cool. So with that said, Hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. Good 80 minutes. We talked about some good stuff, some good fitness advice, both on the beginner side, the more advanced side, and then we moved into a little bit more life advice and some dating advice. We kind of hit everything. So, second channel. All right, so if I make a second channel, right, it's going to be called Tyler Path Improves. That's what I'm thinking. Unless it's taken. But we'll see. I need to fit it in my content schedule because I got a lot. Well, we'll see if I end up having time to do it or not. So at one time I thought about making a I keep yapping, but at one time I thought about making a skincare channel. Because I deal with a lot of acne, right? So I did a lot of research on skincare, and I probably know more about skincare than most girls, I would say. So I thought about doing like a skincare channel because, I'm like, I don't feel like there's not like a guy skincare channel with someone who really understands, right? Someone who really knows the pain of having a lot of acne. But do it. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. 2 gaming shirtless videos, brah. Nah. Nah, I don't think that not my thing. Not my thing. At least you don't have the pain of losing hair. It's true. I don't think hairline's decent. Got a little bit of natural fading since I'm 25 years old now, but yeah. Share a quick skincare tip. I think exfoliating, if you get a lot of acne, I think exfoliating is a big thing. Biggest advice I can give you guys, use sunscreen. Use a facial sunscreen. Every day you go outside. So pretty much every day during the day, use a sunscreen. That's like the biggest way to avoid aging. That's the biggest way to like get rid of like dark spots when you have acne. Or like when your acne goes away, but you still leave a mark, kind of like that right there. Using sunscreen is probably one of the biggest things you can do. So I think that's the big thing. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out, and I'll do a glute spread in 3, 2. Okay. All right, later, y'all. Thank you guys. I'll see y'all at 700K.